My car today is a 2004 Acura TSX, and today I'm going to be replacing the stereo because unfortunately somebody broke in and stole this one.
That's a camera for sure.
For this build, I'm going to be using the MP5 double din, the eBay special that's affordable and ready to go right out of the box. Come on, check it out. The replacement radio does have a wire harness. The TSX harness has been brutally butchered. There's no longer any plugs left on here, and so I'm going to have to find another way to reattach these wires in order to get a double din playing in here again. The first step in the process is to remove the dash kit. There's a single Phillips head here behind the hazard light switch. Once this is removed, I'll have a lot more access to the wiring so that way I can solder my connections. Unplug that hazard light switch and the whole thing pulls right out.
Man, this thing got some brutal bars on it. Let's see.
At least the antenna's still here. The wires back here are pretty chopped, but they seem like they're long enough that I'll still be able to use them. Reattaching plugs to the wires is a painstaking process. It must be done with each individual wire, one at a time, until you have all the speaker wires and the power termination back ready to connect to the radio. There's a good argument to be made here about using a factory TSX harness. It would allow you to use a metric kit and then reinstall any other radio any other time, bringing it close to the original design. But sometimes there's just not enough time or money in the budget in order to be able to accomplish everything you'd set out to do. The eBay special HD5 uses standard aftermarket wiring colors, so that's going to make reinstalling this thing a breeze.
Oh, here we go.
Yellow, red, black, white, gray, green, and purple. Yep, they're all here. So really, if you ever needed to reinstall a different radio, you would just have to reattach them color to color on the new aftermarket radio's wiring harness. Or there's always an optional aftermarket Metro harness that would still allow you to reconnect the factory radio. This would be sufficient in that case, and so we're not really going to spend too much time worrying about it.
That's cool at least.
It's about the same amount of work, and so I'll just go ahead and continue reattaching by soldering and heat shrinking each one of the wires. The HD5 is a pretty capable radio. It has a backup camera, and you're able to do Apple CarPlay, so I don't see a reason why you would need to replace this radio anytime in the immediate future. This model year of TSX came with multi-channel audio, so there are a ton of different speakers in the vehicle. I mean, these things did used to sound really good from the factory. But I also know the higher wattage output of an aftermarket radio will really drive those speakers, bringing out the true potential that was within them all along. I'll use a torch to seal in the marine grade heat shrink. It has hot glue so that way it's a watertight connection. It protects the wires inside the dash, and it makes sure that it's going to be the best possible termination I can use to replace the stereo after it was stolen. The process really is that simple, although it's pretty tedious because each wire has to be done individually. I mean, it's just a pain when somebody breaks in and steals your radio. But you don't want a hole in your dash either. So this is probably the cheapest and best solution. Now that I finished with the power wiring harness, I'll move on to the speaker wire harness. It really is the same thing. I'm just going to strip off a small enough amount in order to be able to adhere good solder and just continue heating and shrinking each one of the wires back together. An all too common problem on a stolen radio is when the wires get cut, it usually pops the fuse. I'm not getting any power here, so I'm going to go ahead and check and see what I have here at the back of the radio.
All right.
The fuse box down here in the left side driver's kick panel, I'm just going to go through and find which fuse is popped, pull it out, and replace it. Not too bad. There's our culprit. And just like that, we're back in business. I'm going to need to reconnect the antenna to make sure that I get more than just the static white noise that's coming through the radio signal. I want to be able to hear some type of audio from the speaker so that way I know that all of them are playing. Now that I verified the audio signal is working, it's time to reinstall the stereo back into the dash. The HD5 is not a great fit for this aftermarket bezel, so I had to use some silicone in order to glue it into place. That's not going to be a problem because once the silicone dries, it's going to be a good solid hold, and it's going to be easy enough to remove if you did want to swap out another radio. It fits nicely, but I did have to trim one of the edges down in order to be able to make it fit properly. After that, it's just as simple as snapping the speaker wire harnesses into place and then popping this trim panel back into the dash. I will have to reinstall the hazard light switch and the Phillips head screw in order to complete the install. To be honest, that doesn't look that bad. I'm going to go ahead and pop in the hazard light switch and give it a quick test. Since everything's working, I know I can put it all back together now with confidence. Much like a windshield replacement with the urethane, I can remove that tape once it's been a couple of days and I know everything is dried.
HD5.
With everything reassembled, I just want to go ahead and give one more functionality check. I'm checking climate control and the different audio switches just to make sure everything is suitable. Keeping prices within a budget on a stereo theft recovery can be challenging, but with the right equipment, it can be done. Stick around if you want to see some more of the different type of installations that I do on my channel. I've got a ton of stuff in the works, and I know that you would be a fan if you enjoyed this video. See you.